I am Alicia, and welcome to my Operational Innovations channel, where I focus on process tips, techniques, and strategies to help you level up in the area of project management, product ownership, and small business operations. Now, I'm back, folks. I took a little bit of a break to downsize and right size. More on that later. But today's topic is from the Small Business Health Check series. From my top 10 tips list, today's topic is number 6, plan your income. Now, I'll put a link to the launch video that goes into all of the top 10 tips below down in the comments. But this is the first video where we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this idea of plan your income. And if I get some additional folks to interview, you'll see the series of these when you come back to the channel. Now, as I've mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur a few times before, and actually in my downsizing and my right-sizing activity, I noticed that I'd been an entrepreneur yet another time before this. So this is my 4th time around as an entrepreneur. And what I'm sharing with you in this series are some steps and some tips that have helped me have really a great year last year. And coming into 2020, just continuing to thrive even during this time of global crisis. So your mileage may vary on these tips. I welcome you to share, to comment on the types of things that you do in this area of planning your income, and I look forward to hearing more from you about what you do in this area. So let's talk about this, planning your income. You know, this video is about the practice and discipline of planning ahead for what you do with the income when it comes in, so that I'm not in a rush doing something else and I don't have a clear plan for what income should be doing for me. And let's just talk about how I don't do this perfectly. But I will tell you that this time around as an entrepreneur, I am significantly and acutely more aware of the importance and impact of these things, this idea of planning my income ahead of time. Because here's the thing, you know, just think about this. We'll just think through the scenario, right? So you get the contract, you write up the statement of work, and you put your put it on your clipboard or wherever you put these things, your incoming income. And then 45 days happens because you're on a net 45 with this client, and the whole world has changed in 45 days, just like it did this year in March. The whole world changed in 45 days. And so when the money comes in, you're like, wait, what was I supposed to do with this outside of paying a sub or having some direct, memorable thing that you're supposed to do with it? You might have a lack of clarity about what to do with that money. So I'll tell you that last year I really built up a great discipline for this and was super good at it last year. And then 2020 I came raging into 2020, really had a solid plan, and then March began the dumpster fire of 2020. And well, I've gotten a bit off my game. So I'm saying this to say that it happens to all of us. Give yourself some grace and just kind of get back in. So today we're going to look at a couple of things. We're going to look at my simple process of using sticky notes. You'll see that. And we'll also just take a look at some steps to help you plan your income. So this discipline, the steps for me are pretty simple. If you watched my other videos, number 5, set aside point 3, number 4, plan your work, you'll see that I don't use fancy or complicated tools, and I invite you to use what works for you. The main takeaway from this is to do it ahead of time before you get the stash. Think about what you're going to do with it, where it goes, how it should be applied, who it goes to. Just think about all that ahead of time. And again, I'm not running a multi-billion-dollar operation here, so my steps are pretty simple. And I'll share those with you. So I use a very simple process, and like I said, if you notice from the last time, I'm all into using a sticky note. So that is something that I am very, very into using, and I'll share with you just how simple that can look, right? So the magic is in the plan. You want to spend a minute of time as your step 1 when you first get the contract, when you first write out that first invoice, just what's going to happen with this money. You know, there's an honor to this too, right? You work hard for your money. You work hard to be in service to your clients. Take a moment to honor that income that's coming in and make a plan for it. So as you can see here, I've got my line item for my taxes, and I've got 2 line items for the other 2 places, the other 2 accounts where I'm going to be putting this money. One of the accounts is to pay bills and my responsibilities, mortgage, whatever that is. And then the other might be going into my business account. You know, one of the other tools that I'm going to be learning about, I'm going to be doing a video on this also, in the Know Your Numbers series. That was the #1 video. I had a couple of interviews in that series, and I'm going to have a 3rd interview, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. In the Know Your Numbers series, we're going to be taking a look at the cash flow report. I haven't used that one before, and I'm super excited to see what that report tells me and how it helps me plan my income. I'm not using it today, but I do plan to use it in the future. Today, again, my practice is pretty simple. And the nice thing about the cash flow report is it's pretty simple too. It's just a report that you extract out of QuickBooks. But I'm going to learn with my guest interview person, Wendy Sadd. I'll be learning from her, you know, how this report informs this concept of planning my income. So stay tuned for that one. And in the meantime, get your sticky notes out, because that's what we're doing here. So I put this information here about the taxes, where the 2 things go. Now, so I work with other people. I work direct with my clients, and I might bring a specialist in to do some additional work. Maybe it's another coach. Maybe it's a person who's a back-end JIRA expert. Whatever those specialty resources, and these folks are subs on my account. So if I had to pay a sub, I'd have a line item here for what that person's invoice was to me. And then I would be paying them out of that. And I would absolutely have that written down, because of course you don't want to forget to pay your partners. I like to pay my partners, and I like to pay them on time. So I would absolutely have that listed here. The other thing that I have that I use, and I use this pretty regularly, and I like this little simple spreadsheet. I call it my savings plan worksheet. And on this worksheet, you can see the months of the year. I'm taking the information from my QuickBooks month end on my profit and loss statement, which is just a click in QuickBooks to produce that report. And you'll see your gross profit there. I fill in the gross profit. I also fill in the net income, but I don't do a lot of calculations off of the net income. I mostly do them off of gross profit. And I know that that kind of inflates things. Like, so for instance, if I'm doing my gross profit calculation for taxes, set aside 0.3, that number is going to be higher than I actually need to set aside, because you have an adjusted gross income. No tax advice here. Please consult your tax consultant for this, but I'm just letting you know how I use this. So yeah, so I look at the gross profit number here, and then I do the calculations for my self-insurance, for my tax, for the money that I'm going to set aside. Actually, this one's off of net income. So GP is calculated off of gross profit. The NI is calculated off of net income. And then I have my 401k, or my SEP. So as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I learned, well, you learn this quickly, is that, well, you don't have anybody taking out deductions out of a paycheck that you get every 2 weeks. And so if you're going to plan for your retirement, you need to set that money aside. And so my savings plan helps me keep an eye on what I want to set aside for my 401k. 401k and SEP is actually the 401k of entrepreneurs. And so it's that account that you set up with your financial advisor. And if you don't have a financial advisor, I'll put the link to my financial advisor, my sister-in-law, down in the bottom, so you can connect with her. You set up that account, and then you make those contributions to it. Now, you might make your contributions regularly. I usually make mine annually. I might make them a couple times in the year, and then right before I pay my taxes, I make the final contribution to my SEP. So this plan, though, helps me to look at those things and look at the types of, where the money needs to go. And I do this ahead of time. So it's the savings plan, it's the sticky note. These are all the types of things that I do ahead of time to plan for my income. All right, so let's keep going. So as I said, #1 sticky note is to, once you get the invoice together and you've got that set up with the client, just kind of thinking about it, honoring the work and the income that's coming in, thinking about where it needs to go. That's kind of just the initial thinking about it. Number two, that second step is to get that sticky note out. And I usually write on that the total amount that's due on the invoice, even though it says on the invoice that I printed out. I put that on the sticky note typically. I have the amount that I set aside for taxes. I have the amount payable to my subcontractors. And then I have the amount that I send to my personal bank account because, well, who doesn't love a payday? So I put that there. And then if I have some amounts to pay to business credit cards or business other business types of commitments, I put that information there too. That's step number two. And then step number three is to take a look at that savings plan and see if there's other places where the money needs to go. Maybe that's to the SEP, maybe that's to home bills or whatever that is. You might have other places where you're going to be putting that. And then our fourth step is really when the money comes in. So once that money comes in, and as I said earlier, when the money comes in 45 days after you've sent that invoice, the whole world could have changed. And so you really need to make sure that you've got everything written up so that you know exactly where to move things. So I like to have a day that I allot for my business accounting. Since I don't have an accounting department, I am the accounting department. I set up Fridays to do this work, and I set aside some time to either draw up invoices or to do my QuickBooks work or to do the pulling the stuff out of QuickBooks and putting into my savings plan. Fridays are my days to do that, because here's the thing: if you don't do it on some day during the week, then the next day comes with everything that comes with that day, and now you've forgotten to do it. I have to set aside this time to do this. Fridays are my days to do it. So I'm going to deposit the money when that check comes in. I'm going to refer to my sticky note and my savings plan. And then for me personally, I'm going to move that money immediately if it's possible to do. Because, sometimes there's depending on the size of the check, there might be a hold on it. So you might have to wait a little bit. But I try to set aside a follow-up time in my calendar if there is a hold on the amount of money, and I move that money around immediately. And if I don't move it around immediately, then at least I can refer back to my notes if I need to. And so that's but I like to get them, especially that tax money. I like to get that tax money off the table immediately. Like it didn't even show up. It's just boom, right into the taxes, and you don't even notice it. And again, I'll thank my sister-in-law and my financial advisor, Dana Bath, for that perspective on moving that money around. And so that's it, folks. It's really pretty simple. For me, it's pretty simple. I like it to be straightforward, and I like it to be something that's easy for me to do as a person running my business and doing my business. That's the thing that I found when I worked with small business operators, is that there's doing the business and then there's running the business. And the running the business part is the part they hate. They love doing the business. They love doing the thing that they love to do, but it's all this kind of stuff that's behind the scenes that just falls by the wayside, because I think it's because maybe the processes are too complicated, or you don't know what you don't know. I don't know what it is, but I do know that it's this kind of stuff that can really trip you up. Whether you're running a restaurant, whether you're running a hair salon, whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're a therapist, you're in that business because you love that work. You don't love this bit. So keep your processes as simple as possible for yourself. I like to keep them straightforward. I like to keep them easy to use and easy to manage, because I'll tell you, at the end of the day, we're the people who have to do the work. We're the people who have to do the work. And so there isn't a magic unicorn that's going to move your money around to where it needs to go. I mean, that would be nice, right? See all those nice little neat and tidy piles. There's no magic unicorn. You are the person that needs to be putting the steps together to get this done. And so that first step, just as a reminder, is once you set up that contract and get that first invoice out, you want to make sure that you have a plan for it. Think about where that money needs to go. You'll need to set up your sticky notes. You'll want to look at your savings plan. And then finally, when that money comes in, you want to be able to move that around and get it where it needs to go. And then you can just move on, right? The work's done. You can just move on. No magic unicorn. We're the magic unicorn. And if you set aside that time and have that a time for accounting and get that stuff out of the way, it's just such a relief. It's crazy. And that's about it. Number 6, plan your income. Simple, super simple steps. Nothing that's nothing that's completely complicated. So I'd invite you to share your insights, your thoughts, your tools, your tips on what you do in this area of planning your income and what that looks like for you. Share it in the comments below. You know, as small business operators, we're all in this together as a community. We can be stronger when we share our tips and our resources. So thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for our next drill down video in my top 10 tips for small business operators series. We're going to be looking at the number 7 tip, get a coach. So if you like this video, I invite you to like, subscribe, and click that notify button so that you can be notified on all the future stuff that's coming up down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.